If you clicked on this video, you most likely love to listen to Reddit stories while you're doing something else, or maybe you even love the gameplay. So I have got a really good mix for you today. We have got a mom who was absolutely at the end of her rope with a newborn who would not stop screaming, a woman whose little sister decided her 3-year boyfriend was fair game, a young person standing up against something that should have been stopped a long time ago at their college, and a bridesmaid who planned an entire hen party and got nothing but drama in return. So get comfortable and let us get into it. First story, and this one is called I Ruined My Life. I have an unhappy, irritable baby. So this is about a new mom who was in the absolute depths of early parenthood, who wrote one of the most honest and heartbreaking posts I have seen about what those first weeks can feel like, and who came back 19 months later with an update that is genuinely everything. Let me take you into it. So Emma is 6 weeks postpartum when she writes this. 6 weeks. And her daughter has been like this since week 3. 3 weeks old and already a force to be reckoned with. And when Emma says the baby is fussy and irritable, she is not describing a baby who cries a normal amount. She is describing a baby who is essentially always crying. If she is awake, she is crying. Fed, clean nappy, burped, she has checked the clothing tags, she is using tag-free clothes, she has checked every finger and toe for stray hairs. She has done everything the books and forums and well-meaning relatives tell you to do. None of it matters. She tries holding her. The baby cries harder. She tries putting her down. The baby cries harder. She tries contrast cards, those high-contrast black and white images designed to soothe and distract newborns. Crying. Music. Crying. Taking her outside. Still crying. Walks. Crying. The baby carrier that Emma probably researched for weeks before the birth. The baby does not just dislike the carrier. She hates it with a specific and passionate intensity that Emma describes as a definite cry. Like there is a special cry reserved for the carrier. And the one thing that works, the only weapon Emma has in her entire arsenal, is bouncing her daughter in the pitch black bathroom with the shower running at full blast. That is it. That is the one thing that creates any kind of peace in their home. And Emma lies awake at night, terrified of the day that stops working too. Sleep. Let us talk about sleep because this is where things get particularly brutal. During the day, the baby fights naps with everything she has. Emma says she would be lucky to get 15 minutes. And she preempts the response she knows is coming because she has clearly been to the forums and the Facebook groups and heard it 100 times already. She says directly, "Do not tell me I am missing her sleepy cues." She is not. She watches for every signal. She knows what they look like. But her daughter fights sleep like it is going to kill her. She shrieks. She throws herself backwards. She flails. She arches her back. She does not want to sleep. You might expect that a baby who refuses to nap all day would then crash and sleep long stretches at night out of sheer exhaustion. But no. Her usual night stretch is 2 to 2.5 hours. Occasionally 3. A handful of times she has made it to 4, and Emma describes those as victories. And the only reason they get even that much is because they bought an expensive rocking bassinet. But here's the catch with the bassinet. The moment the rocking stops, even for a second, the baby wakes up. Immediately. Not gradually. Not after a moment of fussing. Instantly. Wide awake and angry. So Emma is waking up every 45 minutes through the night to reset the timer on the rocker. Every 45 minutes. The baby had bad reflux on top of everything, and Emma had been hoping, genuinely hoping, that addressing it would be the thing that turned everything around. They switched formulas, they treated it, and the reflux improved, and nothing else changed. She was still just as irritable, still just as difficult. And Emma writes about sitting there watching her daughter be comfortable and still miserable, and feeling the specific despair of running out of explanations. And then she writes the part that takes real courage to put on the internet. Every day she regrets having this baby that she and her husband wanted so badly, and that makes her feel like a terrible mother. She cannot comfort her own child. Her marriage is disintegrating under the weight of it. There's no intimacy, no emotional connection, no physical closeness, because how could there be when the baby gives them not a single second to breathe? Like she says she thinks about how her daughter would be better off with someone else, someone who could actually make her happy. And then she writes the thing that her nurse brain knows, even while her new mother brain is drowning in it. She says she is realizing she has severe postpartum anxiety. She says if a mother at work came to her with these feelings, she would immediately refer her to psychiatric support. She just could not see it in herself until she wrote it all out and read it back. She also mentions, almost in passing, that her husband works from 6 in the morning until 8:30 at night most days, and she sends him to bed at midnight so he can be up by 5:30. He works with heavy machinery. She's afraid of him being too sleep deprived to be safe, so she absorbs almost all of the night wakings alone. She has been effectively a single parent to a screaming potato, while also going quietly out of her mind from sleep deprivation and undiagnosed postpartum anxiety. I want to pause here because I think there is something really important in what Emma wrote that goes beyond the specifics of her situation. There's a particular kind of isolation in early parenthood that almost nobody prepares you for adequately. You can read every book, take every class, build every piece of furniture, wash every tiny onesie, and still find yourself in week 6, sitting in a pitch-black bathroom with a shower running, bouncing a screaming baby who has not slept in 3 hours, feeling like you have made the worst decision of your life, and also feeling like a monster for feeling that. The idea that you are supposed to fall in love with your baby immediately and fully, and that it is supposed to feel natural and joyful, that idea does real damage to parents who are struggling. Because when the reality does not match the expectation, the gap fills up with shame. And shame is what stops people from saying what Emma said. It is what makes women suffer alone in bathrooms at 3 in the morning, rather than telling anyone the truth. Emma told the truth on the internet to strangers, and the strangers told her she was not broken. Now, the update, and this is the one I want you to really hear. 19 months later, Emma comes back. Her daughter is 19 months old, and she starts by saying that a lot of people message her asking if things ever got better, which tells you something about how many people found her original post in the dark of their own bathrooms at 3 in the morning and felt less alone. She addresses the mystery of why her daughter was so difficult. It was not a cow's milk protein allergy, which a lot of commenters had suggested at the time. It was probably reflux, which they were already treating. And it was probably just what some people call the 4th trimester, the period when some babies are simply not yet ready for the world, and express that displeasure loudly and constantly. Some babies are what Emma gently calls special babies, babies who need more, who arrive with a specific and demanding personality from the very beginning. And the thing that eventually helped was not fixing her daughter. It was letting go of the idea that there was something to fix, and instead just adjusting to what her daughter needed. Contact napping until 5 months. She threw the fancy bassinet in the bin. She got a foldable floor mattress and co-slept following safe sleep guidelines. She bounced on a yoga ball with noise-canceling headphones every evening for the 5 o'clock witching hour until her daughter was around 11 weeks old. 5 o'clock every day on a yoga ball with headphones for 11 weeks. And somewhere around 5 to 6 months, Emma says things shifted. Her daughter hit her stride, and they started actually enjoying being parents. And then this line, her daughter at 19 months is without a doubt the light of their lives. Sweet, hilarious, stubborn, the best little sidekick. Worth every hour of sleep lost and every minute on that yoga ball. Emma still carries guilt for the regret she felt in those early weeks, but she was relieved to find out her husband had been just as overwhelmed, just as frightened, carrying just as many of the same feelings in silence. And sometimes now they catch each other's eye while they're enjoying their daughter and start talking about having another. And then the memory of angry potato phase comes back and they shudder. She ends with this: yes, it does get better. You just have to get through it in whatever way works for you. The thing about Emma's story that I think matters beyond the parenting specifics is that she named the unnameable. She said the thing out loud that hundreds of thousands of parents think but do not say because the shame is too heavy. And by saying it, she not only got support that helped her survive those early months, she created something that other parents found 18 months later when they were in their own bathroom with their own inconsolable baby and needed to know someone had been there and made it through. That is actually a remarkable thing to do, even if it did not feel remarkable at the time. All right, next story, and this one is from 2015, but the resolution is so satisfying that it is absolutely worth the full arc. This one is called My Sister is Trying to Seduce My Boyfriend. So Claire is 24. She has been with her boyfriend James for 3 years. He is patient, loyal, handles uncomfortable situations with a kind of quiet dignity that you will appreciate more as this story unfolds. And then there is Hannah, Claire's younger sister, 18 years old. Just started college in the same city where Claire lives and works. Their parents asked if Hannah could move in with Claire because it made financial sense, and Claire was looking for a roommate anyway. They're not particularly close. Claire is not especially fond of her parents, but she agreed because it seemed like an opportunity to build something and because Hannah would not have been able to afford anything on her own. That was the thinking. Let us talk about what actually started happening. Every time James comes over and they spend time together in the common areas of the apartment, in the kitchen making dinner, in the living room watching something, Hannah appears. Not unusual for a roommate to be around common spaces. The issue is how she appears. In her underwear. Sometimes specifically a thong and a tank top. And this is not Hannah's usual mode of dress around the apartment. She does not do this when anyone else visits. Only James. Claire tells her this is inappropriate. Hannah says James is like family, so he should not care, and that she just wants to be comfortable in her own space. Claire tells her to stop. Hannah does not stop. Then there are the interruptions. Anytime Claire and James go to her bedroom, Hannah materializes within minutes. She says she's lonely and wants to hang out with both of them, but this desire specifically and consistently arrives at the moment they close her bedroom door. Sometimes she comes up with a justification. Once she knocked to ask James to come to her room to kill a spider. Claire tells her to leave them alone when they close the door. Hannah continues to interrupt. And then there are the things James tells Claire are happening. When she is briefly out of the room, the bathroom trips, the moments she steps away to do something else. In those moments, Hannah comes in and starts conversations. Not normal roommate conversations. She asks James what his favorite sexual position is. She tells him hers. She asks how many girls he hooked up with before Claire. She models outfits in front of him and asks if he thinks she looks good. James handles each incident by either ignoring her completely or telling her he is not interested in having that conversation with her. He tells Claire all of this. He does not hide it or downplay it. And then Claire goes into Hannah's room to retrieve some makeup and perfume that Hannah has been taking without asking. When she notices Hannah's Facebook is open on her laptop. She sees a chat that has photos of James in it. She reads it. Hannah is messaging her best friend. The messages say things like, "Oh my god, he is coming over today with a heart emoji. I have to go to the mall. I need to buy something sexy with a winking emoji." And then she shares photos of James. And these are not photos James posted anywhere publicly. These are photos Hannah took without him knowing. James standing in the kitchen, James asleep on the couch, James on the street outside, taken secretly, collected quietly, like someone building a private gallery. Claire shows James everything. They agree that from now on they spend time at his apartment. It is nicer there anyway. The privacy is better, and it removes the situation entirely. But Claire is furious about the fact that she is now effectively displaced from her own apartment, that she has ceded her own home to a teenager who has no respect for her or her relationship. She writes this post asking what to do, whether to confront Hannah again, whether to tell her parents, whether to have James shut Hannah down directly. The comments are largely in agreement. Hannah is an adult. She's not on the lease. She's had multiple warnings and changed nothing. The logical next step is giving her 30 days to leave. The update comes 3 days later. Claire calls her parents first. She tells them what has been happening and that she's going to ask Hannah to leave. She frames it not as a request for their opinion, but as information so they can help Hannah arrange alternative housing. She doesn't send them the Facebook screenshots because she feels no need to prove herself to them. Her decision does not depend on their belief. And here's where something unexpected happens. Her parents believe her, but not for the reasons she might have hoped. It turns out there was an incident at a family reunion that Claire had missed. Her cousin B brought her boyfriend to meet the family for the first time. And Hannah, in front of everyone, including B, including their parents, including B's parents, flirted openly and obviously with him. She kept trying to touch him, kept sitting next to him whenever B stepped away. The whole extended family saw it. B's parents were disgusted. It became the gossip of the entire day. And suddenly, Claire's parents, who had not cared about Hannah's behavior before, cared. Because now it was affecting their reputation with family. And separately, they cared because they liked James very much. viewed him as a good catch, and didn't want Hannah to ruin that. They ask Claire to give Hannah one more chance. They say they will talk to her. Claire does not trust them to follow through, but agrees to think about it. Then, the very next day, Hannah posts on Facebook something to the effect of, "Sometimes you cannot let other people get in the way of love." Claire sits her down. She tells Hannah clearly that if the behavior does not stop immediately, she is out. She says she knows about everything. She says it disgusts her that Hannah would not only disrespect her by trying to pursue her boyfriend, but that she would do it while living under Claire's roof, eating food from Claire's kitchen, using the apartment Claire is paying for. Hannah mouths off. She tells Claire that James is going to leave her anyway, because she does not make enough effort with her appearance. She says there are dozens of women in the city who could catch his eye. She says she does not have to listen to Claire because Claire is not her mother, and they are not that far apart in age. And then she says, word for word, "I am not a kid anymore. I can do whatever I want." Claire somehow keeps her composure. She tells Hannah that's exactly right. She's an adult, and adults face adult consequences, including eviction. She tells her she has 30 days to leave. Hannah says that is illegal. Claire has already spoken to the landlord. Hannah is not on the lease. The landlord does not care. The 30 days are legally valid. Hannah storms off. Claire contacts the landlord, confirms everything is in order, informs her parents the decision is final, and orders a small nanny camera to install in the apartment while she continues staying at James's place. The final update arrives about a week later. Hannah is out. Claire's parents stepped up and helped move her out within the week, which Claire had not fully expected. They showed up, packed Hannah's things, and got her out without a confrontation. Claire was there to make sure her belongings did not accidentally end up in Hannah's boxes. The nanny camera showed Hannah had not destroyed anything, but she had done 3 things. She had posted increasingly dramatic things on Facebook about being made homeless by her crazy, insecure sister, until their cousin B commented publicly, reminding her that if she had some self-control and basic decency about other people's relationships, none of this would have happened. Her friends liked B's comment. Hannah stopped posting. She had messaged James on Facebook. They are not Facebook friends, but she found a way to send him a message anyway. She told him she was hurt by what Claire was doing, asked if he could talk to her, implied she could make it worth his while if he helped her stay. James told Claire about the message immediately. Claire asked to read it herself. James was reluctant, slightly embarrassed about how he had responded. He dithered, and then he showed her. He had written back to Hannah. He said Claire was his girlfriend and her decisions about her living situation were hers to make. He fully supported her. He and Claire were a team, and he would not be asked to take anyone's side against hers again. He said he thought it was the right call for Hannah to go home, and then he said something else. He told Hannah that he hoped to be her brother-in-law someday, so he wanted to be kind. But he said her behavior was unflattering, not attractive, and he told her that in the future, if she keeps acting this way, the only men she will attract are not the men who will ultimately make her happy or give her a relationship that means anything. The things that fly in certain social circles when you're young do not carry the same weight later. He said he knew she wanted to find someone, but the way she was going about it was not going to get her there. Claire says she was over the moon, especially over the brother-in-law comment. They're now talking about James moving into the apartment when Hannah's share of the rent needs to be covered, or finding a new place together when the lease is up. There's something I keep thinking about in this story, and I want to say it directly because I think it is the most important part. James. Throughout this entire situation, from the moment Hannah started the inappropriate conversations, through the underwear and the interruptions and the Facebook stalking, James handled himself with a kind of quiet integrity that is genuinely worth recognizing. He told Claire everything. He did not downplay, he did not hide things to avoid drama, he did not let Claire's sister's behavior become a secret that sat between them. He was transparent, consistently, from the beginning. And when the moment came where he could easily have just said nothing and let the situation end quietly, he wrote Hannah a message that was honest and kind and genuinely tried to help her rather than humiliate her. That is character. That is someone who knows what a partnership actually means. Claire found that out during one of the more uncomfortable experiences a relationship can go through, and it brought them closer rather than pulling them apart. As for Hannah, 18 is young enough that the hope is she eventually figures out that this is not the way. B had it right. Grow up, have some respect. Okay, this next one gets more serious, and I want to give it the space it deserves. This one is called Am I the Asshole for reporting the autistic kid in my class. So Maya is 17. She started college last year. And there is a classmate, we will call him Adam, who has severe autism and whose behavior has been escalating in ways that have made the classroom increasingly difficult to be in, and whose behavior the faculty have been consistently covering for and dismissing rather than addressing. Now, Maya is careful to distinguish between things that are irritating but tolerable and things that are not. She mentions that Adam interrupts class, watches YouTube during lessons, and then complains he does not understand the material, expects teachers to spoon-feed him answers, and has a general approach to the classroom that she finds frustrating. She says those things are barely tolerable, but tolerable. She's not writing in to complain about those, she's writing in because of something else entirely. Maya's friend Zoe was seated next to Adam in class one day, and looked over to find him watching explicit pornographic content on his laptop while touching himself. Not briefly, not by accident, doing it deliberately in a shared classroom. And this has not been a one-off incident. Since that first time, Maya and her classmates have regularly seen explicit material on his screen. Other teachers have been told about it. Their response has been to tell students to just ignore him. The academic advisor, a teacher named Mr. Thomas, who is otherwise well-liked and considered a good educator, has told students to delete evidence they had gathered and done nothing further. Along with all of this, there are the escalating meltdowns. Adam has been having increasingly intense tantrums when teachers will not simply give him answers to problems, rather than guiding him through solving them. He pesters them repeatedly in class, interrupts them while they are helping other students with genuine problems, and when he hits a limit, he starts screaming and swearing. These episodes have been getting longer and louder as the coursework has gotten harder. A few days before Maya writes this post, there's a particularly bad incident. Adam and Mr. Thomas get into a screaming match in the middle of class. Maya has ADHD, and the unmedicated sensory experience that comes with it means there is something about Adam's voice specifically that she describes as physically uncomfortable for her. She can usually manage it with headphones and willpower, but that day the tantrum was too loud, too long. She was already stressed from project deadlines, and she could not drown it out. She had a panic attack in the middle of class and had to move across the room to where Zoe was sitting to calm down. Zoe held together during class but went home and cried to her mother. Maya told her mother what had been happening. Both mothers lodged a formal complaint about Adam's behavior and about the year of inaction from the faculty. The result is that Mr. Thomas is facing possible termination. And Maya says she feels bad about that because by all accounts he is genuinely a good teacher who made an effort to make his classes engaging and enjoyable. She says his reasoning was that he pitied Adam and felt it was unfair to take action against him, that everything tried had not led to improvement, that consequences felt cruel. Her mom's position, which Maya agrees with, is that even though accommodation for students with special needs is important, it cannot come at the cost of other students tolerating ongoing inappropriate behavior, especially behavior that involves sexual content in a shared space. The update comes 2 weeks later, and it gets worse before it gets better. A few days after the formal complaint was made, the course manager, Mrs. Jones, comes into class while Adam is not there, and instead of telling students what is being done, instead of providing any kind of transparency or reassurance, she lectures the entire class about the ethics of taking photos and videos of disabled students. She calls it gang bullying a disabled classmate. She talks about the legal implications. Maya sits there wanting to scream. They are describing what amounts to ongoing sexual harassment, and they are being told to consider whether they were the ones behaving badly. Her mom takes notes from Maya's account and uses them as preparation for a formal meeting with Mr. Thomas and Mrs. Jones. In that meeting, Mrs. Jones comes in on the defensive from the first sentence, over-explaining what the school has been doing behind the scenes, not leaving room for anyone else to respond. Maya's mom calls her on it, they backpedal, and then Maya's mom brings up the touching. And Mrs. Jones says something that manages to simultaneously be technically accurate and completely miss the point. She says, and I want to make sure I quote this correctly because it matters, that his hand is outside of his pants and his member is still inside. Maya uses capital letters in her post at this point, which is entirely understandable, because the implicit suggestion is that this distinction makes what is happening acceptable, that there is a threshold of visible, explicit behavior that needs to be crossed before it becomes a problem. And that threshold apparently has not been reached yet. Mr. Thomas is not fired. Adam is not removed from the class. Some parents are organizing a petition. Adam's father, when told by the school about the behavior, apparently responded with, "So what? So what?" Maya ends with what sounds like the last of her patience, but also the first of her understanding that the school is likely not going to handle this adequately on its own. She mentions that if the situation does not improve under the more rigorous counseling the school promises, the next step is the police. I want to address something directly about this story because I know some people's first instinct when they hear the word autistic is to immediately position the other parties as potential bullies, regardless of what happened. And I think that instinct, while it comes from a real and important place, can also be misapplied in ways that cause real harm. Adam has autism. That is real. His needs are real. His challenges are real. And nothing in this story suggests Maya or her classmates are targeting him because of his disability. What they're describing is a specific set of behaviors, ongoing and escalating, that are causing genuine distress to other students who are also there to learn. Maya herself says she has autistic friends and has spent time around many people on the spectrum without this kind of experience. The autism is not the issue. The behavior is the issue. And the failure of the adults responsible for the classroom to address the behavior is the issue. There's also something uncomfortable about the way the school has handled this that deserves to be named. They told students to delete their evidence. They lectured them about bullying when students reported being sexually harassed. They allowed a situation to persist for a year in which a student had a panic attack in the middle of class because of escalating episodes, and their response was to suggest the students were the ones not handling things correctly. Disability accommodation should never mean that other students have to absorb harm in silence. Both things can be true simultaneously. Adam needs support and structure and appropriate intervention. The other students also deserve a classroom environment where they can learn without being subjected to this. Those are not competing priorities. They are both legitimate. The school has been behaving as though only one of them matters. And the last story, and this one is shorter, but I think it captures something really specific about how friendships can quietly erode during major life events. This one is called "Am I the Asshole for Refusing to Change My Bridesmaid Dress After Already Paying a Deposit?" So Lucy has been friends with the bride, we will call her Sophie, for about 15 years. They don't see each other constantly. They live 2 hours apart and both have busy lives. But a few times a year they would meet up, and the friendship has been real and long and meaningful. When Sophie got engaged 2 years ago, she asked Lucy to be one of 2 bridesmaids alongside a maid of honor. And almost immediately, things start going sideways in small ways that feel tolerable until they add up. First, there's the hen party. Sophie's mother books a hotel without consulting any of the 3 bridesmaids and then sends them a bill expecting them to cover the costs. All 3 bridesmaids say no. That is not something they agreed to. The mother is asked to try to get a refund. Lucy, wanting her friend to have something nice, volunteers to host the hen party at her own home instead. She spends months on it. She buys decorations, organizes games, prepares loads of food, sets up her house, plans activities. Does the full thing. The maid of honor is essentially unreachable during the planning period, ignoring most messages. The other bridesmaid shows up with a blow-up doll with the groom's face on it. The hen party happens, and then nobody thanks her. Not the bridesmaids, not the maid of honor, not Sophie. Lucy goes home to silence. After that, she decides to handle her own dress. She can't easily do group shopping trips. She lives 2 hours away and does not have a car. She was told the bridesmaids were responsible for buying their own dresses and that the color should be champagne. So she looks. She finds one she really loves. She sends a photo to Sophie before doing anything. Sophie says it is amazing. She loves it, asks how Lucy's boyfriend will feel about needing to get a suit. Lucy says she is looking at the dresses today. And then she pays a deposit. And then a message arrives in the group chat from the other bridesmaids saying the dresses were supposed to be satin or silk, and Lucy's dress does not match. She will need to change it or it will ruin the aesthetic and the photos. Lucy points out that no clear fabric requirement was ever stated. Sophie backs the other bridesmaid and says she does not remember approving the dress. Lucy remembers the conversation very clearly, but it was on Snapchat, so the messages are gone. Then things escalate. The other bridesmaid reaches out again to say she has spoken to Sophie and the groom and they are not happy. They are thinking of making the other bridesmaid a joint maid of honor so that Lucy does not stand out. There are 3 bridesmaids total. This suggestion makes very little sense logistically and feels like a punishment. She also tells Lucy she can be a bitch if she has to be. She offers to buy Lucy a cheap replacement dress, and then, as a kind of extra blow, she tells Lucy that Sophie is cutting the guest list and that children will not be invited anymore, which seems to imply that Lucy's daughter and mother are no longer coming. Lucy has not heard any of this from Sophie herself. Lucy decides to go directly to Sophie. She has a 15-year friendship. She deserves honesty. She tells Sophie that if the dress was a problem, the moment to say something was when Lucy asked before paying the deposit. She says the messages from the other bridesmaid have made her uncomfortable enough that she is considering not attending the wedding at all. Sophie writes back, and her response is clarifying in several directions at once. Sophie says she actually has no problem with the dress. She thinks it's beautiful. The color is correct. She said from the beginning that as long as dresses were champagne, the bridesmaids could choose what they felt comfortable in. She says the situation with the other bridesmaids seems to have come as a surprise because they did not know Lucy had already paid a deposit. She says she cannot speak to what was said in their chat. And she tells Lucy she was really upset to hear that Lucy was thinking of stepping down because she had always planned to have her as a bridesmaid. As for the guest list, Sophie says she never told anyone that Lucy's daughter was not invited. They are still figuring out numbers, and the evening reception may be adults only, but nothing is confirmed. She will let Lucy know directly when things are decided. Lucy thanks her, and then, despite the explanation, she tells Sophie she thinks it is better if she steps down. She says she does not want any tension around Sophie's wedding. She loves her and hopes she has the most beautiful day. Part of me understands Lucy's decision completely. She spent months planning a hen party that went unthanked. She was given contradictory information from multiple directions. She was spoken to aggressively by someone who threatened to be a bitch if necessary, and offered to replace her dress with something cheap. She does not know which version of events is true because the bride is saying one thing, and the other bridesmaid said something completely different, and that uncertainty itself is exhausting. But there is also something quietly sad about the ending. Sophie did not seem to have actually wanted any of this drama. By her own account, she approved the dress. She wanted Lucy in her wedding from the beginning. She was distressed to hear Lucy might step down. And yet somehow the communication had become so fractured, so mediated through a third party who was apparently representing Sophie's wishes without accurately representing them, that Lucy ended up in a position where stepping away felt like the only option that did not involve more conflict. The other bridesmaid is the variable here that nobody has quite addressed. She threatened, she implied, she misrepresented, she involved herself in conversations that were ultimately between the bride and her long-term friend. Whether that was intentional or just catastrophically clumsy is impossible to know from outside, but the damage was done either way. 15 years of friendship ended up in the territory of stepping down from a wedding over a dress that the bride actually liked. That is a genuinely unfortunate outcome, and I think most of the roads that led there had nothing to do with the dress at all. And that is going to do it for today. Drop a comment on whichever one stayed with you the most. I will see you in the next one.